began to be very verbally abusive, very controlling.
She was punched, choked, bitten, and thrown down a stairs. And she's one of the lucky ones. Stay tuned for the terrifying trend in domestic violence putting today's tweens at risk. Coming up Friday on The Morning Show. Inside the controversial sex education podcast, making kids laugh and parents fume. And get her done. Larry the Cable Guy dishes on his first and last nude scene. Plus, Geraldo Rivera and Janine Pirro weigh in on the week's hottest cases with the verdict.
You know, when you hear the words domestic abuse, thank you all very much, many of us automatically assume we are talking about adults.
But listen to this. It's a disturbing new study out among 13 and 14-year-old kids. 13 and 14 years old, 1 out of every 5 say their friends have been hit, slapped, or struck in anger by their boyfriend or their girlfriend. It's an experience our next guest knows all too well.
He was a preacher's son, top student and football star, Marcus McTeer. She was sweet, pretty, and a popular cheerleader, Rayanne Spence. And they were young and in love. Teen passion inflamed by flowers and love notes.
He had that way about him where he could make you think that he was a good guy. Like, you know, he was in choir and, you know, went to church every Sunday.
But when the thrill of the chase was over, the young gentleman slowly turned on her.
A few months into when we had been dating, he began to be very verbally abusive, very controlling.
Marcus did not want Rayanne talking to friends, especially boys.
I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't have any friends. I didn't talk to my family. I basically sat in my room and talked to him on the phone.
Lost, hurt, and confused, Rayanne withdrew into a sorry state of isolation.
It's the first day of 9th grade. It was time for class, and basically Marcus started to walk off. When he went to walk off, I tried to talk to him.
Then the abuse became physical.
He just turned around and just hit me in my arm, and basically everybody around me didn't say anything.
Afterwards, the violence grew savage. Marcus bit her on the cheek, threw her down a flight of stairs, set her backpack on fire, and threatened suicide if she left him. Rayanne's mom and family noticed the bruises, but their scared little girl lied about the causes. Then something happened in school that could not be hidden.
I was sitting in the row behind him and had my feet propped up on the row in front of me, and he told me to, you know, get my feet down and knock my feet down. So I put my feet back up there, and he knocked them down again, and I put them back up there, and then he turned around and basically started hitting me 3 times in my left ear with my binder. And at that point, he put me in a headlock and continuously hit me until the teacher got between us and got him off me.
They blamed her, not the star athlete. So to end the cycle of pain once and for all, Rayanne's family moved across town to a new school district.
We, moved, and I got a new start. We went to a whole different school, and nobody there knew what I'd been through.
And in time, Rayanne was able to move on and finally put her past behind.
And the story does not end there. Rayanne Spence is with us from Dallas, Texas right now. Thanks for being with us. Nobody believed you at that school. Nobody listened. Nobody really seemed to care, the kids there, at least at that point, because he was a popular guy. So you decided you're going to leave, you just pick up and go, and you went to another school. And everything was okay for a while, right?
Right.
How are things going, Rayanne, over there?
Things are going good now. Once I did move from that school, like I said, got a fresh start. I made a lot of new friends. I was having, just basically the whole high school life that, you typically hear about a kid having.
And at least you were away from Marcus. At least you're away from this Marcus guy. But then what did you hear? What did you hear about a classmate?
6 months after I had been gone, I was talking to a friend from the old school that I was at where Marcus was still attending. And she said, she told me that he was dating a new girl, Ortrella Mosley. And she said, Trella understands now. You need to talk to her, and she understands. And at that point, I didn't understand what exactly she meant to me when she said, Trella understands. I was kind of confused, and 2 days later, I got the news that Marcus had actually killed Trella.
Had stabbed her to death.
In front of
Stabbed her to
300 schoolmates.
Well, joining
In
us
front of
now
all her classmates.
Yeah. Joining us now is Trella's mom, Carolyn. Also next to her, Carolyn, thank you for being here. Next to her is psychologist Dr. Elizabeth Richardson.
And also today we have Chief Executive of Day One. It's an organization to prevent teen dating violence, Stephanie Nilva. Carolyn, let's go back to when you first met Marcus. You've liked him. I mean, he called you mama, and you guys actually had a good relationship.
He called me mom, and we had a great relationship. He'd be the kind of person you would want. The person that I met was a person that I wouldn't mind being with my daughter. I mean, he was a great person. He was a pastor's son. He was a star athlete. He was, you know, ready to go to college. He was a good
really
person.
Good student, too.
Very good and
then,
very mannerable.
When did you get the first, oh, no, this is a bad guy?
I got the oh, no about a week before my daughter died.
What happened?
A week before my daughter died, I had gotten married, and we was on a honeymoon, and he had cut his neck at my house.
Why did he slit his own
Because
throat?
he was telling her he would kill himself if she broke up.
Oh, she's trying to break up with him at the time. I'll kill myself if you do this, that kind of behavior.
That's what he was doing.
Tell me about the day before your daughter died. What was happening?
The day before she died, well, the Wednesday, I went and spoke to his parents, and I told his parents that.
What did they say?
Well, that Wednesday, they was telling me, his father, basically, to sum it up, told me, you take care of your child, and I take care of mine. That was what I was told.
That's the reaction of a lot of parents, I think,
Yes.
Carolyn. But I know the last day of her life is burned into your memory. Do you mind taking us back to that morning?
The last day of my daughter's life was, she went to school. My baby was beautiful. She had on bobby socks, white shirt, teeth. You know, she was beautiful. And I took her to school, and she had asked me to do some things for her, and I was going to pick her up from school. And my understanding was he carried the knives all day long. You know, nobody...
You went there to kill her?
Yes,
you think?
it was premeditated. It was found that it was a premeditated murder. And his reasoning for killing her was because he said she loved too hard. But my daughter, I got a page from a friend of hers, and the friends told me that she was at the hospital and something had happened to my daughter.
Oh, when you got to the hospital, what happened?
When I got to the hospital, the media, everybody was already there.
Yeah.
And they told me my baby was gone, and I'm like, gone where?
What did Marcus say?
Marcus was not at the hospital, but I looked around in the crowd, and his parents was there, and I was like, oh, my God. And to this day, I still don't know my feeling. I'm stuck at 15. I'm stuck at my daughter's age of 15 because I really don't realize my baby's gone, you know?
Wow. Were they in a conversation on that last day?
The conversation that he told her was he didn't want to see her with anybody throughout that day.
And she turned her back on him
She
then to
turned her
walk away?
back on him in the hallway. They was having a conversation, and he turned her back on him in the hallway around 4 o'clock or so. And when she turned her back on him, he stabbed her in the back.
Stabbed her in the back?
Yes, he stabbed her in the back, and then she turned around to him. And he said she looked up at him, and he stabbed her in the lung. And she fell on her knees. He stabbed her in the right temple, the left temple, and then the top of her
I can
head.
see why, Carolyn, you're frozen 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard. Is this common? How common is this type of behavior out of 12 and 13-year-olds?
This is tremendously common. The recent research that can be found at loveisrespect.org really validates what Day One sees in our work. And what they found was that, and they were shocked, is that 47% of 13 and 14-year-olds know someone who's experienced verbal abuse, 20% know someone who's experienced physical abuse.
Oh, we're talking about these are little kids. You know, you think they're out with their little boyfriends and girlfriends and oh, it's so cute. They can't even get in a car together, most of them, and this is happening. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk to the doctor here who has a lot of knowledge about this subject and a lot of personal knowledge as well. She went through her own tragedy, but she's trying to talk about this and make everybody aware of this problem. And also, when we return, we're going to meet a young girl who was trapped in an abusive relationship, and nobody had any idea. We'll be right back. Excuse me. Welcome back to the morning show. We're talking about domestic violence against young teenagers. In this case, girls as young as 13 and 14, dating, you know, their little boyfriends who end up being violent and in some cases killing.
Joining us is high school student Ashley Hoyle, who was in an abusive relationship as a young teen, and her mom is with her here, Candy. Thank you both for coming from Wichita.
Back with us is psychologist Dr. Elizabeth Richardson, and also in our audience, Chief Executive of Day One, Stephanie Nilva. Ashley, So when you started dating this guy, and interestingly, he was a pastor's son.
Here we go again.
Football player. Everybody loved him.
Yeah.
And you just fell head over heels.
Oh, yeah. I loved him from, you know, I thought he was amazing, the best boyfriend, and I thought that's what a relationship was supposed to be like. And, you know, it was for a while.
Okay, so what changed?
After about 3 months, he started getting emotionally abusive, and he wouldn't let me hang out with my friends, and he wouldn't let me especially hang out with guys because he would think that I was cheating on him with any guy that I even came in contact with. But about 6 months into it, he started getting physically abusive, slapping and pushing me into lockers and things. And so like it seemed perfect at first, but then, you know, after a while, he got really controlling of everything I did.
What, cut off from friends, things like that?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of common denominators of all these guys.
Definitely, yeah.
Did he start, my mom, excuse me, did he start pressuring for sex?
He didn't start pressuring for sex, but it didn't get to that point, and I'm sure it would have had it gone on longer than it did. But it did go on. He did pressure for his...
Well, give us an example of how intense he got. Tell us about your clarinet lesson.
My clarinet lesson was 30 minutes long, and within that time, he called 69 times.
Come on.
And he left about 7 messages, and each one it was, oh my gosh, where are you? You know, I'm worried about you. By the 5th one, he was screaming and mad and angry.
Cheating on me?
Yeah. And by the 6th and 7th one, he was just, I'm sorry, and then yelling and screaming again, convinced I was cheating.
The reaction, though, your reaction is scary, and it's also a reaction that mirrors the reactions of a lot of older women, too, who go through the same thing. You said, well, this must mean he really loves me and cares about me. Isn't it sweet that he wants to spend every second with me? Doesn't he? Oh, he gets
That's the
jealous.
way you felt?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I felt like that's how a relationship was supposed to work, that he was supposed to want every second with me, and that if I didn't want to spend those moments with him, that I really didn't love him and that I wasn't good enough.
Well, thank God you have a good mom, because you two kind of work together. Okay, it comes to breakup time. What happens then, Mom? Well, what's his reaction when they want to break up?
Oh, he's upset. You know, she actually had just gone over to see him, and he was mad over something else when we got there, and she said, okay, I can't do this. And he shoved her to the ground.
Right in front of you?
Yeah. Yep. And she got up, got in the car, and that was it. Now, that wasn't the end of it. He didn't give up then. He kept, you know, calling and coming back. Oh, please come back to me.
And Dr. Richardson, this is something that you have seen firsthand. You've studied a lot of cases like this. But how did this affect you personally?
Well, unfortunately, my granddaughter, Jennifer Ann Crescenti, was murdered in 2006 by an ex-boyfriend. And in fact, she wanted to be a psychologist. And I think one of the problems was she was trying to help a troubled young person herself and wasn't able to do that. But the things that I'm hearing here today are extremely common. Yeah. This is the pattern. It is progressive. There's not a question about it. Because you don't want to get in a relationship with someone that's mean to you. So you are in a relationship with someone who's very sweet, very endearing, and eventually it develops into that relationship.
Doctor, there are common denominators, warning signs, things you can do about it. Please, on our website, emajshow.com, the doctor's going to go through, delineate those ideas for you. And if you know of a young teen who could be in an abusive relationship, here is the number to call. It is the National Teen Dating Abuse Helpline, 1-866-331-9474.
And we'll ask the doctor to go back and tell a little bit more about what the warning signs are and how parents can deal with this, because they can deal with this and hopefully catch it when these kids are at a young age and so vulnerable. Thank you all for joining us.
Ashley,
appreciate it. And when we come back, the latest from Hollywood on Britney Spears reports that her